I come to the floor today with what I think is a pretty simple message, a message the American people have been delivering to me and people of North Dakota, a message that reflects exactly why I wanted to come to Washington, D.C., which is that Congress needs to do its job. Whether it's legislating on WOTUS, whether it is making sure that we're moving appointments properly, taking votes that maybe make some of us uncomfortable here. That's our job. That's why the American taxpayers pay us. And so I'm coming here today to say, Congress, do your job. Senate, do your job. Every day, families across this country go to work and fulfill their responsibilities and obligations. They do their job, they put food on the table for their families, and they pay their bills. Imagine a construction worker in North Dakota telling his boss that he didn't want to do his job for the rest of the year until conditions are probably more favorable. He might get a good laugh, he might be told to go back to work, and if he was serious, he wouldn't have a job very long. Everyone here knows that American workers can't go to their jobs and just announce, I don't want to do that today. Say, I'm not going to do my job today for the rest of the year. I'm going to wait to find out who might be the new boss. It's just not how it works for the American people, and it's certainly not how it should work for the United States Senate. I think in many ways it's an embarrassment that some of my colleagues would not only ask the president not to do his job, a job that our Constitution instructs him to do, but they would also shirk their own duties to provide advice and consent to the president simply because it is not a good political time to do it. It says something, I think, pretty terrible about Congress if the Senate now is making determinations about how a popularly elected president, regardless of political party, regardless of whether that president is popular in this chamber or not, is no longer allowed to perform the duties of that office and nominate and receive a vote on the Supreme Court nominee of his choosing. It's a disappointing day when some senators will tell the president, don't even bother because we will not even consider or even talk to your nominee. This is before the president has even announced or named a nominee. And it's particularly frustrating to those of us who really want the Senate to work, that some senators are willing to hamper the functioning of yet another branch of our federal government, simply to play politics with the hope that those politics will benefit one party and to maintain and possibly take control of the other two branches of government. I don't think anyone can dispute the facts. The Supreme Court considered some of the most critical issues facing our country, and the American people deserve a fully functioning court. To insist that the court go through potentially 2 terms without a full slate of justices is an abdication of our responsibility as United States senators. That responsibility is to make sure that America has a fully functioning 3 branches of government. And now just yesterday, we hear that my colleagues are not even going to entertain the thought of a hearing before the Judiciary Committee for any nominee that the president puts forward. I don't know how you can explain that decision. I don't know how you can say for the next 10 months it doesn't matter. I don't know how to explain that to people back in North Dakota. And so in the last 100 years, the full Senate has taken action on every pending Supreme Court nominee to fill a vacancy, regardless of whether the nomination was made in a presidential election year. According to CRS, Congressional Research Service, since 1975, the average number of days from nomination to final Senate confirmation is 67 days, or just over 2 months. Since committee hearings began in 1916, every pending Supreme Court nominee has received a hearing, except 9 nominees who were all confirmed within 11 days. In addition to holding hearings on the nomination, the Senate Judiciary Committee has a long-standing bipartisan tradition of sending to the full Senate all pending nominees to the Supreme Court for a Supreme Court vacancy, even when the majority of the committee may not have supported that nominee. In this Supreme Court, if in fact this Supreme Court vacancy is held open until the next president makes a nomination, that will mean it is vacant for well over a year. Not since the Civil War. Not since the Civil War has the Senate taken longer than a year to fill a Supreme Court vacancy. An extended period of time with only 8 members of the Supreme Court sitting would delay or prevent justice from being served. There are American citizens across the country who need decisions from the court on various variety of issues. In fact, what we have done is we have elevated the circuit courts who have made the decisions that are currently pending. We have elevated the circuit courts to really the position of the Supreme Court of the United States, denying access to those claimants one way or the other, whether the court agreed with them or the court disagreed with them in the circuit courts, denying them access to that final appeal, denying them access to that Supreme Court decision. So I just simply want to say, let's do our job. Let's give the nominee a hearing. Let's vote in the committee. Let's all do our job to vet the candidates. Let's not prejudge this. Let's do the responsible thing. Let's vote yes or no. Let's take a look at the candidate that is going to be nominated, and let's get a fully functioning Supreme Court. I want to close with just one reminder. The last time we went through a very contentious hearing was the hearing for Justice Thomas. And I think my colleague from Washington who's on the floor well remembers that, as do a lot of people here remember that. I want to just remark that Justice Thomas was sent to this floor without a positive vote out of committee, but sent to the floor. And Justice Thomas's nomination, at the urging of then Majority Leader Mitchell, was not filibustered. That probably the most contentious nominee in my lifetime, certainly, and certainly, raised some very interesting gender issues, did not even get filibustered. Let's do our job. Let's do the work that the people sent us here to do. Let's vet this candidate, whoever it might be, and let's move forward so that every person who has a case pending before the Supreme Court, or will have a case pending before the Supreme Court, is given access to justice by providing a fully functioning Supreme Court.